The script says good morning, but I think we've adjusted the schedule a little bit. I want to thank everyone for coming. We look forward to all the testimony here this afternoon. And once again, we apologize for our schedule and having you wait for 45 minutes, but I hope you had engaging conversations in the interim. The hearing this morning is to understand the nature and the importance of ocean exploration. And you in the audience know greater than most the importance of understanding the nature of that system and its impact on the planet, and also the nature of the priorities for most administrations in the last 50 years, to a large extent, has been other exploration. To some extent, very important to understand the nature of the endless universe in which we reside. But with ever-tightening budgets, with ever increasing problems with Earth's ecosystems, with the protein factory of the ocean, with the global warming, sea level rise, ocean currents, the nature of life on planet Earth, I want to commend the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Saxton, for offering this legislation. And we hope, as a renewed sense of urgency with energy, to take our expertise, our talents, our ingenuity, our intellects, our determination, and our resources to take a look at what's under the surface of the ocean. And I'm sure we'll find some enormous, magnificent discoveries. So I want to thank Mr. Saxton for pushing hard for this hearing and for this legislation, for the Fisheries Subcommittee staff for working on it, and especially for all of you who have dedicated a lifetime. Sometimes I'm sure it's frustrating, but have dedicated a lifetime to understand the nature of nature's design on this infinitesimal blue and white speck in the midst of a pretty hostile universe. And we're just crawling around here trying to exist. And now we try to get a little bit more organized than what we have been. And with the help of the administration, and the help of some of the scientists that are here today, we will begin to explore the world's oceans like never before. And all you can ask of us, in which we should be able to deliver to you, is that we as members of Congress that develop the legislation be competent and informed. And I'm sure your testimony to us today will help realize those dreams. And I want to ask unanimous consent that my full statement be put into the record, because it really is a pretty good statement, the one that's written down here anyway. And I'll yield to, you ready, Frank? Let me go to Mr. Saxton.
Oh, it's up to you. I don't
All right. The first gentleman from New Jersey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Some of the finest minds in ocean exploration and research are here this afternoon, and I welcome them. I very much look forward to hearing their advice and counsel on legislation introduced by my colleague, Mr. Saxton, that would authorize a comprehensive ocean exploration program. In particular, I wanted to thank Mr. Terry Garcia, Vice President for Mission Programs at the National Geographic Society, who also served as Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Oceans and Atmosphere and as Deputy Administrator of Noaa during the Clinton administration, for participating with us this afternoon. And of course, I want to recognize and welcome Mike DeLuca, Director of New Jersey's own Institute for Marine and Coastal Sciences at Rutgers University. I should have to ask you at one point, when I worked for Sea Grant at Cook, I used to work in the Department of Environmental Resources. I don't know if that still exists or that's been taken into your institute, perhaps.
Mr. Pallone is the first member of Congress to ever ask a question during the opening remark.
We used to be in a trailer. It was awful. It was right across from where the, all the animals are for the ag field day. I imagine that everyone here will agree that we know far too little about the oceans that cover 70% of the Earth's surface, while more than 300 men and women have journeyed to outer space. including 12 who've walked on the moon, only 2 people have descended in a single dive to the deepest parts of the ocean. Moreover, roughly 95% of the ocean floor remains unexplored. I'm going to also digress now and say that a couple weeks ago I was at the Museum of Natural History in New York with my children, and we saw an IMAX film about a deep ocean dive, and it was fascinating because, well, first of all, there were a woman and a man, and 2 of my kids are daughters, so they were like fascinated with the fact that the marine biologist was a woman. That, I should say that. And the other thing was, when they went down, they discovered all these creatures that were completely unknown, had never, I guess to our knowledge, existed before, and they were giving them names. They were all new species. I thought it was fascinating. The current administration has paid a lot of attention to trying to improve exploration efforts in outer space. I suggest that there is a need for Congress and the administration to step up and move forward with an ocean exploration strategy for planet Earth. Fortunately, the 2001 release of the President's Panel Report, Discovering Earth's Final Frontier, a U.S. Strategy for Ocean Exploration, allowed NOAA to begin a bold new initiative to establish a robust national ocean exploration and underwater research program. And I want to commend NOAA for its dedicated effort to develop and maintain this new program despite difficult budget cuts, such as last year's elimination of funding for 4 out of the 6 existing national undersea research centers, including the outstanding Mid-Atlantic Nerp Center at Rutgers University, unfortunately. And I'd be interested to hear the views of our witnesses about the ongoing administration efforts within NOAA to merge the Ocean Exploration Program with the National Undersea Research Program. While I strongly support both, I remain unconvinced that a stronger, more capable entity will emerge from this proposed merger. It's also important to better understand how a focused ocean exploration program could support our management of ocean resources, in particular biological resources such as fisheries. Where or what is the appropriate link from ocean exploration and research to resources management, and for that matter, should there even be such a link? Obviously, no ocean exploration will be possible without the robust support of non-federal partners in academia, industry, and the private sector, such as the institutions represented here this afternoon. I think it's vital that the legislation contains adequate incentives to encourage cooperation across sectors in order to bring together the strengths of federal and non-federal partners. And finally, while we are developing this new program, we must ensure that the benefits of federal investment in new technologies for ocean exploration and research is understood by the common citizen, not just scientists and researchers. Without broad public awareness and support, it will be impossible to sustain any long-term strategy, much less captivate the interest of the general public in New Jersey or anywhere else. But I have to tell you, I think there is a lot of interest, and the more that people know about ocean exploration, the more they're interested. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of interest in my district. We have at Sandy Hook the MAST program, which is a college program, a high school program that deals with marine biology. And I find that more and more my constituents, particularly young people, are very much interested in exploration of the ocean. So I think that we're definitely on the right track here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Saxton, for all that you do.
Thank you, Mr. Pallone. The author of the bill, Mr. Saxton.
Thank you. I'd just like to associate myself with much of what my 2 colleagues have said, and to just thank all of you for being here this morning. I'm not going to have much to say in my opening statement, but I will submit it for the record. Let me just say this, though, that the National Ocean Exploration Program Act, I believe, will create a better sense of coordination between NOAA and the National Science Foundation. And among the purposes of the Act are to expand ocean exploration to discover the marine substances that potentially have therapeutic benefits, to study unique marine ecosystems, organisms, and the geology of the world's oceans. The National Ocean Exploration Program also encourages NOAA to conduct archaeological and scientific voyages of shipwrecks and submerged sites. Those voyages will lead to greater discovery of maritime history. The NOAA's Undersea Research Program, NERP, is part of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Office of Oceanic and Atmospheric Research. As the federal agency responsible for managing living maritime and coastal resources, NOAA requires a presence beneath the sea and Great Lakes to better understand the systems under its management. Nerp provides NOAA with the unique ability to access the undersea environment either directly with submersibles and technical diving or virtually using robots and seafloor observations. This subject, I know you know, is extremely important. Certainly, Congress has not paid enough attention to it, either in terms of renewing the effort or in overseeing the effort, and we certainly need to do that. I've been carrying on conversations on this subject with my colleagues on the floor, both Republicans and Democrats, in leadership and outside of leadership, and I am hopeful that we will revive a good level of congressional involvement in these very important subjects. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Saxton. Mr. Spinrad, Dr. Spinrad, welcome, sir. Dr. Spinrad is Assistant Administrator of NOAA's Office of Oceanic and Atmospheric Research. Welcome to Washington. We look forward to your testimony. You may begin, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, in fact, Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for this opportunity. I am, in fact, the Assistant Administrator for NOAA's Office of Oceanic and Atmospheric Research, and in that capacity, we are responsible for leading and conducting scientific research, environmental studies, and technology development needed to improve NOAA's operations and information services and to broaden our understanding of the Earth's atmosphere and oceans. I'm pleased to be back here today to discuss H.R. 3835, an act to establish a coordinated national ocean exploration program within NOAA. In keeping with the administration's strong defense of ocean exploration, as described in the U.S. Ocean Action Plan, NOAA supports this important legislation, which covers NOAA's ocean exploration program and our complementary program for undersea research, two programs which provide a sound foundation for the aggressive ocean exploration and undersea technology development programs that our nation needs badly. NOAA's Ocean Exploration Program is a national program that provides the opportunity of discovery to our partners in academia, industry, and federal and state agencies. No other dedicated source of funding or logistics exists for exploration-based ocean science. The economic and social benefits of exploration are significant, and the promise of future exploration is clear. Wherever the program has looked, valuable new discoveries and information have been found. Ocean exploration activities improve our knowledge of living marine resources, such as those you see here, their habitats and ecosystems, which in turn enhances our fisheries and ocean stewardship and benefits our marine resource management. NOAA's expeditions have exposed extraordinary secrets of the mysterious ocean realm. The Ring of Fire expeditions recently uncovered amazing submarine volcanoes lying along the Mariana Arc in the Western Pacific, such as those you see here. These expeditions discovered seafloor hot springs which continuously vent droplets of liquid carbon dioxide. And in these expeditions, they discovered many new marine species, both vertebrate and invertebrate. NOAA's ocean explorations also uncovered ancient deep-sea corals in the cold waters of the Davidson Seamount off the central California coastline. We will see even more opportunity for learning and discovery through ocean exploration when a former Navy vessel is converted to join the NOAA fleet as the Oceanus Explorer. As the federal government's only dedicated ocean exploration ship with full telepresence capability, the Oceanus Explorer will conduct critical deep-sea missions, including ocean floor mapping and oceanographic research. For over 25 years, NOAA's Undersea Research Program has served the nation as an underwater research and technology program. It has a proven record of providing the advanced technologies and infrastructure necessary to support undersea operations for both the academic community and NOAA. For example, the program owns and operates the Aquarius, the world's only underwater science laboratory. The program has also played a strong role in developing next-generation concepts for coastal observation systems like Leo 15 in New Jersey, in fact. Future advances in understanding the ocean environment will be greatly enhanced by creating a dedicated and integrated national program for ocean exploration and undersea technology development. Despite a record of success, however, the future of the Undersea Research Program is at risk due to significant reductions in fiscal year 2006 appropriations that impede the program's ability to support NOAA's mission. The FY07 President's budget request would restore funding to the National Undersea Research Program and the Ocean Exploration Program at useful and appropriate levels to meet the nation and NOAA's needs. Our nation watched in awe as Mount St. Helens blew in 1980. Now we're able to learn in near real time about active volcanoes under the ocean's surface through the use of remotely sensed, remotely operated vehicles, such as in this video that you're about to see, taken just 6 days ago in the Western Pacific. And if you watch, you'll see footage the likes of which we've never seen before in terms of glowing lava seen during a submarine volcanic event. This is in about 2,000 feet of water. That debris cone is about 6 to 10 feet high, about 20 feet across. Remarkable footage that we're just receiving now. Autonomous undersea vehicles and next-generation chemical, physical, and biological sensors will help us study critical elements in the marine environment, such as the deposits of methane hydrates in the Gulf of Mexico, which have the potential of being used as a domestic energy source. The marriage of exploration and technology at NOAA has helped in the discovery of deep-sea organisms that have significant potential for new drugs, such as I'm sure you'll hear from Dr. Pomponi on the next panel. In 2007, NOAA will further address the need for advanced ocean technology development by merging the National Undersea Research Program with the Office of Ocean Exploration, as confirmed by Congress in 2005. This new Ocean Exploration and Advanced Technology Development Program will represent a powerful new capability for our nation's efforts in ocean exploration and research. NOAA strongly supports the intent of H.R. 3835 to establish a coordinated national ocean exploration program. Just as scientific explorers of the past, such as Lewis and Clark, Thomas Edison, and Neil Armstrong, led the way in exploration and discovery, we are now poised to do the same in a vastly unexplored 70% of the Earth's surface covered by the oceans. As we enter NOAA's bicentennial year, we celebrate this agency's critical role in the evolution of ocean exploration and advanced undersea technology. We are encouraged that Congress is considering this legislation to promote the importance of ocean exploration and to maintain our nation's competitive edge in ocean science and technology. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Spinrad. Just a quick question. When that volcano exploded about 2,000 feet under the surface of the ocean, was the vessel anticipating that? Was it an accident it was there?
We had targeted this area as a volcanically active area, and of course there's a lot of footage of watching these areas prior to the volcanic eruption. So we had pretty good sense of where to go. We certainly didn't have a forecast capability to say be here at this time and date, but by loitering in the area and continuing the exploration of that arc over many days, we were pretty sure we were going to see an event like this. We didn't know we would capture it quite as dramatically as that.
Did it have anything, was there some type of ripple effect? What vessel was that? I guess a little submarine?
It's a remotely operated vehicle, Jason.
Oh, remotely operated vehicle.
Yes, operated off the Melville research vessel. If the question is whether it had any kind of a surface manifestation,
yeah.
No, we don't see that from
really?
this. It's far enough down that you don't tend to see that. There have been occasions where we have seen some surface effects from significantly larger volcanic eruptions, but in this case not.
From your perspective, how far are we from accessing the methane hydrate for an energy source? Is that feasible, practical? Is it down the road? Will it do environmental damage or what?
The issues associated with methane hydrates, first of all, are finding the appropriate techniques for characterizing the size of the deposit. So there are a lot of acoustic techniques that are used. The other issue associated with methane hydrates is the stability of those hydrates themselves. They are basically in a solid form at pressure, and when you bring them up from that pressure, they can become unstable, highly unstable very quickly. So there's a lot of technological development, arguably from the energy community, that would be required to take it to that stage. But early indications right now are there are vast reservoirs of methane hydrates around the coastal zones.
I have a number of other questions dealing with those sort of Oceanography 101, but we'll have to ask those when we go out on a voyage.
Glad to do
the
that.
subcommittee can go on a voyage somewhere. A specific question I have for the administration is, will the administration make every effort to ensure that the funding for the maintenance and operation of Oceanus Explorer, the dedicated ocean exploration vessel, comes out of the fleet operation line item in NOAA's budget versus the program office of ocean exploration?
Yes, we are making every effort to ensure that those O&M accounts, operations and maintenance accounts, are handled by, in fact, the professionals within NOAA. That would be the people who operate our marine and aviation operations.
Well, thank you very much. The other thing is priorities for ocean exploration. Do you have some criteria, or have you made a judgment as to should ocean exploration be done within the exclusive economic zone, or is it more of a geological curiosity about different parts of the globe?
A large driver, of course, is tied to the NOAA mission, the mission associated with elements of understanding ecosystems, understanding climate, understanding weather issues. And so consequently, a lot of the focus of the program has been on some of the more particularly dynamic areas of the ocean, such as trenches and arcs, like the video imagery that you saw here. That's a high priority. The Ring of Fire set of expeditions, in fact, was oriented around some of these exciting, if you will, active ocean, deep ocean regions. By the same token, we've conducted experiments up in the Arctic that will help address some of the climate issues that we are concerned about. I would also add there's another criterion that we apply in terms of the prioritization that has to do with the critical educational component of the ocean exploration program. And in fact, if you look at the website, oceanexplorer.noaa.gov.
Looked at it yesterday.
Great. You'll see that there's some wonderful educational products, and so consequently one of the drivers for the program is where can we get some good stuff that can be used in the curriculum development and course plans, that sort of thing.
One last quick question. How do you plan to access the private sector oceanographic community to help facilitate some of these explorations?
There's a number of opportunities here. This is actually one where the merger that I described can be particularly valuable, especially in terms of technology development. A few ways that we can reach out to the private sector. Part of the programs, both Nerp and OE, are grant programs for which we can solicit proposals, preferably through partnerships from the private sector. Both the small private sector, that would be instrumentation developers, as well as the larger private sector, say systems engineering firms, that sort of thing. That's one way. The other way is that I actually believe that if we are successful in advancing this leadership role for NOAA in terms of undersea technology, advanced undersea technology development, we have a number of tools: small business innovation research, CRADAs, cooperative research and development agreements, that we could exploit probably more effectively by targeting particular areas such as sensor development, new platforms, that sort of thing. So there's a handful of areas where we could entice the private sector, partner with them, and actually develop some new capabilities and products.
Thank you very much. Mr. Pallone.
Dr. Spinrad, I noted in my opening remarks that NOAA has undertaken an administrative effort to merge the ocean exploration program with the National Undersea Research Program. And some critics, myself included, question the wisdom of this move. So I just wanted to ask you a couple questions. What is the status of this reorganization? Will NOAA have to seek congressional approval before any changes become final? And then in general, can you summarize for us how this merger is perceived by organizations outside of NOAA? Do they support it or oppose it? And then finally, has NOAA considered the real possibility that merging these two programs might actually hinder the potential of a truly global ocean exploration program?
Thank you. The reorganization, reprogramming, if you will, that NOAA underwent in 2005 and brought to Congress included a definition, a zeroth order definition, if you will, of this merger. When I became the head of the Office of Ocean and Atmospheric Research, I looked at the direction to merge these programs with the mind of trying to define how we can gain even more from this merger, and therefore, what were the respective strengths of each of the programs. For example, the Nerp strength is in its regional presence, something the OE program does not have, and in a lot of its technology development, whether it's advanced diving technology, ROVs, or advanced sensors and cabled observatories. To what extent can that clear record of technology development and regional coordination be used to the advantage of driving ocean exploration priorities, and also can ocean exploration requirements be translated into the kinds of skills that NERP brings to the table? That is, in a nutshell, what the objective of the merger would be.
Do you need congressional approval for it?
No, we do not, sir. We can go ahead and do that, and in fact, I must compliment both the staff within NOAA, the Ocean Exploration Program and the NERP program, as well as our partners, the NERP Center Directors and the principal investigators within the Ocean Exploration Program, and I might also add our Ocean Exploration Advisory Working Group.
But now what about the organizations outside of NOAA? Are they supportive, or do they oppose the merger? Have they been commenting on it?
Well, this is if we include groups like the Center Directors from the National Undersea Research Programs, we've been working hard with those Center Directors to try to incorporate their desires, make sure they understand what the general objective is here. I've also been working with, as I indicated, our outside advisory group for ocean exploration to get their perspectives. I think it's safe to say that based on the general definition of the objective that I've just laid out, we've got acceptance for a way forward. The devil's in the details with respect to the mechanics of getting to that point probably over the next year or two. And so I think, if I can't speak for the outside community, I would describe them as cautiously optimistic, especially in light of what we needed to do in response to the 06 appropriation, where effectively we ended up with zero funding for the East Coast.
But I mean, does that mean that this is largely budget-driven?
No, it's not.
No.
We were going to do this anyway.
Okay. Let me ask you, I appreciate—
Gentlemen yield, and I won't have to start
Sure.
the subject over again. Could you just, Dr. Spinrad, could you just tell us with some degree of certainty that the NERP centers and the colleges and universities that are involved in the NERP program will not be disadvantaged by the merger? Can you say that to us? And
I would
give us
actually
some
say that
assurance?
those centers, and the individuals at those centers and those capabilities, the capabilities they represent, should actually gain from this if we are successful. Gain from it from the following standpoint. If we are successful, the kind of power of the merger we're talking about will be to define for the first time for this nation a centerpiece for advanced undersea technology development, advanced research projects for the ocean, if you will. I would think that since there is not such a capability in the United States right now, we would be able to effectively argue within the administration for increasing resources, increasing capabilities, and 3, 4, 5 years down the line, we would see the current capabilities expanded upon.
The second thing I wanted to ask you, I appreciate the concern you raised about the inequitable cuts in funding in fiscal year 06 appropriations for NERP. And I agree these cuts seriously impede the ability of the East Coast NERP centers from supporting NOAA's mission in undersea research. I wanted to ask, however, why NOAA did not include any restoration of funding for NERP in the recent reprogramming request the agency sent to Congress. And what does that say about where NERP stacks up in NOAA's list of priorities? That's my concern.
I actually think a better metric might be our 07 budget submission, where you've seen our efforts to restore those funds back up to those levels. We wanted to go ahead and move relatively swiftly in 06 with respect to actions. We wanted to be able to respond to the center directors We looked at our ability to use deobligations and under reprogramming threshold limits to define a way ahead, and we felt that we could do that in discussion with the center directors, recognizing there was going to be pain. Could we come in at higher levels with reprogramming requests? Of course, that's a possibility, but it's got to be weighed in the context of the full array of NOAA's potential reprogramming requests. Our decision was this was something that we could manage ourselves internally with the funds available to us, and the better way to deal with this was to ensure in the 07 budget we had defined a level of investment that was appropriate for those centers. So when you look at the 07 request, it does include those.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Pallone. Mr. Saxton.
I just have one other question. Just wondering what you see as the role of academia in the future of the combined programs.
Academia is critical. I believe for any number of reasons, the expertise that the academic community brings to the table in terms of new scientific thought, new technologies, and quite honestly, the new blood that academia brings to the table in terms of graduate students. So obviously, we view this very much as a partnership. In fact, I'd be hard-pressed to discriminate in all of the eye candy that I showed you earlier, what was done by NOAA employees and what was done by academic scientists. It's a wonderful partnership and mix, and we intend to keep it as strong as it has been.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Saxton. Just a follow-up question, Dr. Spinrad. Can you tell us what NOAA's vision for future oceanic research and ocean exploration activities will be, and how will NOAA involve the oceanographic community in this process and make it a coordinated federal, university, private approach beyond NOAA's specific missions?
Certainly can. One of the other hats that I wear, sir, is as a co-chair of the White House Joint Subcommittee on Ocean Science and Technology. And one of the charges that we have in the President's Ocean Action Plan through that joint subcommittee is to present for the first time ever a National Ocean Research Priorities Plan. That is scheduled to be delivered at the end of this calendar year. I can guarantee you that there will be strong emphasis on a community-wide basis on the need for and the value of ocean exploration. It's already incorporated in some of the initial thinking. We've gotten significant input from the academic, private sector, non-governmental organizations, and our sister agencies on the value of incorporating exploration in our national ocean research priorities. So I'm confident I can come back to you in a year and tell you ocean exploration has a strong place in our ocean research priorities.
Thank you. This is sort of a peripheral question, but in this ocean exploration vision from NOAA and its collaboration with a myriad of other entities, where does the Navy and the Coast Guard come into play? I would guess the reason I'm saying I was on a Coast Guard vessel some years ago in the Ross Sea breaking ice for McMurdo Station, which is a wonderful place to be, and I really wanted to stay right there. But is the Coast Guard and the Navy at all involved in assisting in some of these vision practices?
Absolutely. In a general sense, Coast Guard and Navy are two of the agencies, Coast Guard being the lead agency within DHS, represented on this joint subcommittee for ocean S&T. In fact, Navy is represented both on the operational side and the research side, so they have strong representation there. On a more specific basis, a lot of our field work and field activity is done in collaboration with those agencies, using some of their facilities and platforms. Some of the research, methane hydrate research, for example, involves researchers from the Naval Research Laboratory. You mentioned your experiences with Coast Guard. Healy is one of the platforms that we rely on for some of this research. So I think there actually is very good, close collaboration between those agencies and the other dozen agencies that we have in our formal working groups.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Pallone.
I just wanted to ask one more thing, Dr. Spinrad. I noticed in your written testimony you mentioned that NOAA's Office of Ocean Exploration was supported by other NOAA programs, including the National Geophysical Data Center, which provides vital data access, archive, and assessment support. It's my understanding that NOAA has data that's been stored away for decades without anyone taking it off the shelf or to put it in a usable format, much less analyze it. And my question is, are we running the risk of putting the cart before the horse in authorizing a new program that will gather more information that may never be analyzed? And, it doesn't seem to me there's much value in that. And when is NOAA going to address this structural problem within the agency? Are there steps that you're taking to address the problem of this, data that hasn't been analyzed?
This is a problem that I would say extends to any of the federal agencies that have had responsibilities for decades for acquiring environmental data. Within NOAA and our data centers, we have determined that we need to deal with some of these large arrays of data through a, if you will, data mining activity to bring them back to the fore so they can easily be applied to models and other analyses. I would say, in answer to your cart before the horse question, that what's been done with many of the systems that are being designed right now is they are designed so that the data automatically, if you will, go into an easily accessible format. A lot of the new capabilities for geographic information systems make it much easier to make those data available. In the past, that wasn't true. So those data that were collected in the past may have tended to be archived in areas that are difficult to access. That's not happening now. And as far as those old data, we are addressing this through some large data initiatives at our 4 data centers in NOAA. Navy, I know, is doing the same thing at the Naval Oceanographic Office with many of their older holdings. They have a similar kind of issue as well.
So you're, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're essentially saying even if it hasn't been analyzed by you, the fact that it's easily accessible means that it's open for other people to use for various useful purposes.
The trick is having the right kinds of data standards and protocols for delivery of data. The analogy, in fact, comes from the banking industry, where as long as you adhere to certain regulations and standards for delivering financial information, you can transfer that information from bank to bank. We've established what the standards are for environmental data, largely through the GEOS, the Global Earth Observation System of System Activities, and from that now, the data that are being collected according to specific standards, so we don't have to ask, how can I get those data? They should automatically or easily fall into an accessible format.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Spinrad. Any advice for the panel up here?
Keep up the visibility on these ocean issues. It's a critical set of issues for our nation.
I'm not supposed to do that, but if there is an opening somewhere on the planet in one of your vessels and you need a little congressional advice out there on the ocean sea, the wide sea, pass it along.
I will certainly do
I think
that.
it would be interesting for us to take a Codell on one of these. What do you think, Frank?
I'm looking to find some time to go to sleep, actually.
Oh.
They do have berths on most of the vessels.
Yeah, they have berths on them. And actually, if you're on the polar star and you're encased in ice, there's no feeling of being in the ocean. It's just very still because you're sitting on the ice. Okay. Sleep is good.
Or we can take you elsewhere.
Oh, wait, sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Spinrad, very much. Our next panel is Dr. Shirley Pomponi, President and CEO, Harbor Branch Oceanographic Institute. Dr. Susan Humphris, Chair and Senior Scientist, Geology and Geophysics, Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. And Dr. Robert Ballard, President, Institute for Exploration. Dr. Terry Garcia, Missions Program, National Geographic Society, Missions Program. And Dr. Michael DeLuca, Senior Associate Director, Institute for Marine and Coastal Sciences, Rutgers University. Welcome to Washington. I think this is the last frontier, Washington. The last frontier. Miss Pomponi, you may begin, ma'am. whenever they're ready with the technology.
Well, I'm just going
Oh.
to speak today, so I don't need any of this technology behind me, but you can look at those nice images while I'm talking if you
Okay.
like. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee. It looks like the room is really stacked with folks from New Jersey. I'm a New Jersey native myself, but I've been in Florida for the last 20 years. Harbor Branch Oceanographic is a private nonprofit research and education
All right.
organization located in Fort
Could
Pierce.
I hate to interrupt you, but
That's okay.
Mr. Pallone wants to know where you're from in New Jersey.
Penns Grove.
Penns Grove. Where's that?
It's right where you go over the Delaware Memorial
That's
Bridge.
right,
I'll,
yes.
I'll pass it on my way home today.
Okay.
And I,
well,
Did
and
you
I
know the
learned to
chairman-
I learned to scuba dive in New
the
Jersey.
Delaware River right there?
No, no, not in the river.
By DuPont, right
Right, by
right
DuPont
by
now,
DuPont, right down
Did
there.
you know that the chairman is from New Jersey, too?
Well,
He's from Rolway.
Exit 12, before there was an exit 12.
and well, there you go.
That's how we identify.
There, I'm at exit 1, so
Exit 1. Okay. Sorry for the interruption.
that's quite all right. Harbor Branch, where I now reside, is a private nonprofit research and education institution located in Fort Pierce, Florida, and dedicated to understanding and conserving the world's oceans for the benefit of mankind. Now, in our 35th year of operations, Harbor Branch has always emphasized the importance of exploration in its work. I also served as co-chair of the National Academy of Sciences Committee on Exploration of the Seas, and my written statement does include several excerpts from Exploration of the Seas, Voyage into the Unknown. However, my testimony today is as an independent witness and not as a representative of the National Academy. I am delighted and honored to have the opportunity to provide testimony in support of H.R. 3835. The Act has enormous potential to open new frontiers in scientific research and understanding of the oceans and excite the imagination of explorers of all ages. It epitomizes the President's American Competitiveness Initiative. Human nature compels us to chart the unknown. As Congressman Pallone cited these statistics earlier, about more than 300 men and women going into space and 12 walking on the moon and only 2 going down to the deepest part of our ocean. My dream is to one day be the first woman to get down to the deepest part of the ocean. Susan's going to come with me, I think. Every year, new technologies become available to help us probe our oceans in new ways. At the same time, our living marine resources are in danger from harm or overuse. The climate of our planet is changing, and the need for cures for human suffering is greater than ever. An ocean exploration program that opens new areas of inquiry and helps us solve problems that face our society is feasible and justifiable and should be vigorously pursued. Allow me to quickly summarize the recommendations made by the National Academy's Committee on Exploration of the Seas that are most relevant to H.R. 3835. The report recommends a coordinated, broadly based ocean exploration effort that meets the highest standards of scientific excellence. The following goals can be used to gauge its ultimate success. It should be global and multidisciplinary. It should receive international support. It should consider all 3 spatial dimensions as well as in time. It should seek to discover new living and non-living resources in the ocean. It should include development of new tools, probes, sensors, and systems for multidisciplinary ocean exploration. It should standardize sampling, data management, and dissemination, and it should reach out to improve literacy pertaining to ocean science and management issues for learners of all ages. The oceans play a critical role in maintenance of the ecosystems on Earth. Resources contained in the oceans currently supply a substantial portion of the oxygen we breathe, the food we eat, and the fuel we consume. The economic and societal benefits of ocean exploration are numerous. New species of marine plants, animals, and microbes that will be discovered will contribute to our understanding and management of ecosystems. Discovery of new ecosystems will alter our view of the origin of life, not only on Earth, but possibly on other planets as well. A diverse spectrum of marine natural products with the potential to treat diseases such as cancer and Alzheimer's and emerging infectious diseases will be discovered. New mineral and energy resources may be uncovered, and archaeological discoveries will provide new information about the history of our civilization. H.R. 3835 goes a long way toward addressing leadership, strategy, and quality three essential components of a successful ocean exploration program. It sets a course that could return the United States to its position of leadership in oceanography. I say return because after more than 2 decades of no funding increases to the ocean sciences, if measured in inflation-adjusted dollars, other nations have not only caught up, but have quite possibly wrested world leadership in ocean science and education from the United States. For instance, under current budget constraints and with aging infrastructure, it is doubtful that the U.S. could mount the ambitious voyages of exploration that, for example, the European Union Census of Marine Life project on the ecology of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge has carried out. Likewise, Japan continues to lead the world in manned and unmanned submersible technology for science and exploration. In this picture, what is most troubling is not that other nations are doing more to understand the oceans that connect all of us. Rather, it is that the United States has steadily been doing less. In addition to leadership, a successful program to explore the oceans must have a clear and compelling strategy that will guide and make wise use of this federal investment. While the bill creates forums wherein stakeholders are asked to cooperate on the development of communications and data management and to create interagency and public-private partnerships, the bill is silent on the importance of setting priorities for areas and ranges of exploration, technology development, infrastructure, capacity building, and other issues that will shape the substance and outcome of the important work that will result from this bill. While there may be an implied understanding that NOAA assumes the responsibility for crafting the vision and strategic direction of ocean exploration in the United States, a strong program in ocean exploration should seek input and partners from among other federal agencies and with academic and research institutions. Those partners should help shape exploration priorities as well as define which geographic areas should be explored and in what ways. To accomplish this, the Ocean Exploration Program should establish a stakeholders council whose charge is to establish exploration priorities and performance measures. This council should be comprised of leaders from NOAA, NSF, ONR, MMS, NASA, USGS, NIEHS, and should also include representatives from academic and private research organizations. NOAA should be directed to consult with the ocean research community to identify priority areas for exploration and to develop a 5-year strategic plan for the program. A strong extramural funding component should be a requirement. The NOAA budget should include funding for post-cruise science. Researchers should be supported for activities that will enhance their shipboard work, such as sample analysis and data interpretation and presentation. Without such support, the potential of many discoveries may not be fully realized. And in order to be good stewards of public money and provide the best possible science for that money, ocean exploration should aim for high standards of quality. The legislation sets standards of quality through requirements such as setting up a merit-based peer review and approval of grants. The most immediate and dramatic improvement in the quality of ocean exploration research would occur if rigorous merit-based peer review and approval of grants were implemented by the Ocean Exploration Program. I strongly support the provisions which call for a transparent and competitive process for the solicitation, merit review, and awarding of ocean exploration and undersea research proposals. This is essential to establish and maintain the scientific credibility of an ocean exploration program and to ensure that high-quality expeditions, science, and outreach result from the funded projects. And I commend the committee for addressing merit-based peer review in the legislation. In terms of reinvigorating the National Undersea Research Program, for too long, Nerp existed in a state that didn't allow for meaningful program development. In this current fiscal year, funding was cut to the point where virtually no research can take place. H.R. 3835 seeks to remedy this by restoring funding and gradually authorizing increasing funding. This, along with more robust funding for ocean exploration, is significant to institutions like Harbor Branch. In the past decade, support from NOAA for Harbor Branch submersibles has decreased from 100+ days per year to only 16 days this year. The budget authorizations for 2007 and beyond for both ocean exploration and NERP are realistic and pragmatic funding levels. Allow me to leave you with this. Harbor Branch's dedication to exploration has enabled me, a girl from New Jersey, to spend most of my career searching for sponges and other marine organisms that can yield novel chemicals that may be used to treat human diseases. Using 2 very capable research submersibles to explore in a geographic area focused primarily in the Gulf of Mexico and the Bahamas, I've been involved in the discovery of hundreds of new species and chemicals they produce, any of which could become an important pharmaceutical used to fight man's worst killers. One of the most important discoveries was a sponge never before described, occurring not in some remote geographic location, but less than 10 miles off the Florida Keys. Nicknamed the Rasta sponge because of its gnarly shape resembling dreadlocks, this sponge produces a chemical that has anti-cancer properties. Our research, born of these voyages of exploration and discovery, confirms that the likelihood of finding cures and treatments in the oceans is neither far-fetched nor impractical. Many of the most common pharmaceuticals in use today were derived from terrestrial natural products, and it's only a matter of time, exploration, and research before the oceans begin to yield pharmaceuticals and other products of biotechnology that will improve the human condition. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, if ocean exploration could do only that, it would still be worth it. Now, in fact, the promise of exploration is much greater than the examples I've mentioned today. Thank you for your consideration and support of this important bill.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pomponi. You were a little over your time, but it was useful information. And if any of the other panelists have a relative or a friend that lives in New Jersey or have ever passed through New Jersey, you'll be able to go over your time as well. So, Ms. Humphris.
Good afternoon, Mr. Gilchrist and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for this opportunity to present some thoughts on H.R. 3835. I'm the department chair and a senior scientist in the Geology and Geophysics department at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, and I've been involved in deep ocean research and education for more than 35 years. Exploration has always been a hallmark of the American people. It brought our ancestors across the ocean to create our nation. By definition, exploration opens our eyes to new vistas so that we see our world with a greater understanding. Exploration creates potential that we did not know existed. In 1804, the Lewis and Clark expedition opened up the West. In 1838, the U.S. exploring expedition explored the Pacific from south to north. It literally broadened the nation's horizons, as the author Nathaniel Philbrick put it. And it was the U.S. exploring expedition that brought the United States international renown for its scientific endeavors, as well as its bravado. The same can be said of our space exploration program that began in the 1960s. The birth of oceanographic sciences began with the British expedition aboard the HMS Challenger in 1872. Since that time, exploration of the oceans and seafloor has progressed enormously. Ocean exploration revolutionized the earth sciences in the latter half of the 20th century. The systematic exploration of the world's oceans in the 1960s led to the theory of plate tectonics. That theory fundamentally transformed our understanding of the processes that forge and shape our planet, that generate destructive earthquakes, and that cause volcanoes to erupt. It dramatically improved our ability to explore for oil and mineral resources. In the 1970s, the discovery of deep ocean hydrothermal vents at mid-ocean ridges completely changed our views of where and how life can exist on our planet. It rearranged our thinking about how life may have originated on Earth and where it might exist on other planets. Genetic and microbiological research on organisms found at deep-sea vents has been crucial to new biomedical and industrial processes. The world's ocean remains an unknown frontier, one that is key to civilization's future. The world's oceans are the key to sustaining life on the planet. They hold the greatest range of biodiversity, which is largely unexplored. New insights leading to new advances remain out beneath the ocean's surface, untapped but awaiting discovery. Based on my experience, It's my firm belief that exploration of the oceans should be an imperative for our nation in the 21st century. The alternative, not exploring the oceans, means being satisfied with remaining in the dark about the planet we live on. It's the equivalent of not sending Lewis and Clark to explore the Louisiana Purchase. The oceans present a formidable and opaque barrier, but newly developed technologies, including remotely operated vehicles and autonomous underwater vehicles, are allowing us to access the abyss. New sensors are allowing us to instrument the seafloor to learn what is going on down there. Throughout human history, major discoveries and revolutions in science have inevitably come from exploring the unknown. That has always been so, and is especially so today in Earth's deep oceans. House Bill H.R. 3835 is critical to making exploration of the world's oceans a national priority. It is long overdue. As noted in the bill's text, an ocean exploration program within NOAA should be established with input from the nation's best scientific minds and with the collaboration of federal agencies involved in oceanographic research, especially the National Science Foundation. To be fully effective, I believe the nation's ocean exploration program should be carried out in an open and competitive process. It should have significant input and support from the broad oceanographic research community. The program's priorities should be set by a committee of leaders in oceanography, earth sciences, and engineering. Funding decisions should be based on the scientific excellence of proposals in these priority areas, and the decision should be made by a peer panel with no conflicts of interest. In addition, educational experts should be included in the program to ensure that new science and technology produced by the program informs and motivates young Americans. They are our future scientific leaders. Without them, our competitiveness as a nation diminishes. I urge you to pass H.R. 3835 so that we can fully explore and understand the vast unknown territory and life processes occurring in Earth's inner space, in the global ocean, on the seafloor, and underneath the seafloor. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Humphris. Dr. Ballard.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
I think they're going to load me up here. Just hit? No.
That's mine.
Chairman Gilchrist, Congressman Stallone, and members of the Subcommittee on Fisheries and Oceans and its staff. Thank you for inviting me before this subcommittee to comment on the National Ocean Exploration Program Act. I've submitted a much longer written testimony for the subcommittee's considerations, but since I only have 5 minutes to talk, I'd like to follow up on the comments you've just received from my colleagues, and instead of restating those comments and repeating them, I'd like to focus upon a specific recommendation made by the President's Commission on Ocean Policy, on which I served. President Bush's creation of the U.S. Commission on Ocean Policy followed passage in 2000 of the Oceans Act. That commission, among other things, reviewed the findings of the President's Panel on Ocean Exploration and the National Academy of Sciences report that you've just heard from, as well as America's ongoing program in ocean exploration. Based upon its 3 years of deliberations involving hundreds of expert witnesses, the Commission on July 22, 2004, issued its final report, as you see here, an ocean blueprint for the 21st century. The Commission's final report, like the reports before it, called for a dedicated $70 million flagship of exploration and an annual budget of $110 million for the ocean exploration to explore the uncharted regions of our planet. Unfortunately, funding for NOAA's ocean exploration program in FY04 was only $12.8 million, making it impossible to acquire a dedicated ship of exploration as all the other previous studies had recommended. But that changed in 2004, following the release of the Commission's final report. In September 2004, a bipartisan group of senators, led by Senators Dodd, Inouye, Stevens, Gregg, and Reed, enacted legislation to transfer the United States Navy's USNS Capable to NOAA, along with $18 million to convert it to America's first ship of exploration, with a plan and a mission literally to go where no one has boldly gone before on planet Earth. With a dedicated ship of exploration scheduled to go to sea on its first expedition in late 2008, NOAA's administrator, Admiral Conrad Lautenbacher, instructed the Science Advisory Board of NOAA to create a standing committee to that advisory group to provide, quote, timely and expert guidance to shape the annual cruise plan for this new ship of exploration, the Oceanus Explorer, including where it should go, as well as advice concerning emerging ocean exploration technology that will be needed to support its mission. This new Ocean Exploration Advisory Group was formed in 2006 and held its first working meeting just last month. Its 11-member board includes previous members of the President's Commission on Ocean Policy, the National Academy of Science Ocean Exploration Study Group, the President's Panel on Ocean Exploration, the Pew Ocean Commission, as well as members of NOAA's Science Advisory Board. Two critical subgroups were created at that meeting. The first was an expedition planning subgroup, chaired by Dr. James Austin from the University of Texas, and I'm sure he lived in New Jersey at some point in his life, that will conduct no later than the spring of 2007, the spring of 2007, a major community-wide workshop to create a multi-year circumnavigation plan for NOAA's new ship of exploration. The second subcommittee formed at that meeting was a technology subcommittee chaired by Dr. Marcia McNutt, who is president and CEO of the Monterey Bay Aquarium and Research Institute, as well as she also serves as the chair of the President's Panel of Ocean Exploration. Her subgroup is responsible for providing advice to NOAA on existing technologies that should be adopted for use on the Oceanus Explorer, as well as technological developments the program should support for eventual implementation into that program. The advisory group also embraced the program's new paradigm for exploration, a dedicated ship of discovery carrying out a systematic program of exploration linked through telepresence to the scientific community, the media, and the general public at large. Let me just spend a few moments with the following slides to present this new concept of exploration. In a true form of exploration, and you're going to where no one has gone before, you have no idea what you're going to find. You don't know whether it's going to be a biological discovery, a geological discovery, an archaeological discovery. So it's not possible to carry on the ship all the experts needed to respond to a discovery the ship makes. So a central point of the Oceanus Explorer is to have a high-bandwidth telecommunication real-time link from its command center, as you see here, which is operating 24 hours a day at sea. It's linked through a high-bandwidth satellite link to a shore-based telecommunications center. In Rhode Island, in the last election in November, the citizens of the ocean state of Rhode Island voted $14 million to build a new advanced telecommunications center to support NOAA's ocean exploration program. This is state funds. And that new center has what's called the Inner Space Center, equivalent to NASA underwater. And that new telecommunications center is manned 24 hours a day as the ship of exploration is exploring in remote parts of the world. When a discovery is made using the technology of Internet 2, scientists, and here is a scientist at the University of Washington recently using this technology, are able to be beamed aboard. Literally, Scotty beamed me aboard, and you're able to call upon the scientific community to participate in the expedition at that moment. In addition to that, because you have this high bandwidth satellite link from ship to shore, you're then able to take advantage of this exciting exploration to involve young people. And here is a young lady who is hosting live programming utilizing this telecommunications center, which uplinks on satellite, domestic satellite, or goes on Internet 1 or Internet 2 to museums and aquariums and sanctuaries and museums and aquariums and boys and girls clubs around the country, as well as other programs, as you'll be hearing from Jerry Garcia and with the Jason Project, as well as being able to begin building the classrooms of tomorrow where children will be able to participate on a year-round basis as America explores the uncharted regions of our planet in hopes of not only making great discoveries that are beneficial to our nation, but also inspiring the next generation of explorers to study a little harder in school. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ballard. Our next witness is Dr. Terry Garcia, National Geographic.
No, I've got a few technical issues here, Mr. Chairman.
I'm glad somebody's dealing with the technical issue.
Spill the water on the computer. That's the end of the computer.
Take your time.
You can just leave it there. Okay, well, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon.
Pallone. It's good to be back. I think it's been more than 7, almost 8 years now. I'm Terry Garcia, the Executive Vice President for Mission Programs at National Geographic. I have written testimony which I'd ask be submitted for the record, and I'll summarize.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. Well, first of all, not surprisingly, National Geographic is quite interested in exploration. We were formed about 118 years ago, and our mission then was to increase and diffuse geographic knowledge. Although it's a somewhat archaic expression of a mission, if they were expressing it today, it would be to explore the world, and that was the intent. The intent was to explore and to fill in the blanks on the map. And I would urge you to take a look at any map today, and you will still see that much of the Earth is blank. In fact, almost 3/4 remains to be filled in. These are not white spaces, but they're blue spaces these days. So we are very gratified that the Congress and the administration are seriously proposing a program of exploration, something that is much needed, not only to satisfy human curiosity, but to address some of the most compelling and serious issues that confront society today. I'd like to first explain from our perspective what we consider to be the most important elements of an exploration program. First of all, such a program must be broad in scope. At its core, exploration is the process of surveying, recording, and mapping. The program should emphasize interdisciplinary capacities. As has already been noted, the focus should be not only on natural resources, but cultural and historical resources as well. The program should, in fact, must undertake and support voyages of exploration. It is not enough to merely grant funding requests from third parties. The program must include an education and outreach program as a central element for expanding citizen literacy in science and technology, as well as to build a constituency for this important endeavor. I would say that today as never before, America needs its citizens to be literate in science and technology. Unfortunately, the need for creative and flexible thinkers is growing at a time when our young people are lagging far behind in science interest and knowledge. In fact, 2 days ago, the National Geographic released the results of what we're calling a geographic literacy study. The study showed a shocking lack of fluency by young adults between 18 and 24 years of age in basic scientific and geographic skills. In one finding, 21% could not find the Pacific Ocean on a map. 1/4 of those surveyed could not find the Gulf of Mexico, much less understand what is happening beneath the surface of the Gulf. This lack of basic geographic and scientific literacy represents a true threat to the security and well-being of the United States. We must find ways to effectively engage students. The excitement of ocean exploration offers us one possibility of reaching students and inspiring them to pursue careers in science and technology. Finally, the program should actively seek and encourage the involvement of the private sector in ocean exploration. And when I refer to the private sector, I mean it in its broadest sense, not just the academic community, but commercial and nonprofit entities as well. The current budget climate obviously demands that we make the most effective use of funds. Also, the private sector has the not only resources, but ideas and innovations that can contribute significantly to a program of exploration. I thought I would just reference a few examples of effective public-private partnerships as well as leveraging technologies. One of them, and since everybody else had some nice photographs, National Geographic cannot be left out of this. I wanted to show you, as soon as we...
Just touch it and it goes live. There.
Thank you.
This one up.
Uh-huh.
Is that the one you want?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see, I think if we do this. One of our, there we go. One of our programs is a remote sensing program that actually uses animals to remotely sense information below the surface of the ocean. This is a Hawaiian monk seal equipped with what we call CritterCam. The CritterCam technology allowed us for the first time to determine where monk seals are foraging for food. That information actually informed in a significant way the creation of the Northwestern Hawaiian Islands Coral Reef Ecosystem Reserve. And one other, this is Rodney the penguin, also equipped with his backpack and CritterCam. What Rodney showed us was that, unlike what we had formerly believed, penguins actually dive down to about 100, 150 feet, and like a bird of prey, survey, in this case, the surface, and then rocket to the top and under the ice grab ice fish. Completely changed our view of how these animals function in their ecosystem. That's just one example. There are many more that we could talk about. On the issue of education, in 2005, the National Geographic and Noaa co-sponsored a meeting where over 100 scientists, educators, and policymakers worked to define ocean literacy. And for the first time, the community agreed on an ocean literacy definition and an alignment of ocean topics to the national science education standards. Recently, the state of California has used these ocean literacy standards to pass sweeping legislation that requires environmental literacy to be taught throughout the curriculum in California. I would also point to the JASON project, which was formed about 16 years ago by my colleague sitting on my right, Dr. Ballard, along with the National Geographic. It is now part of the National Geographic, and its purpose is to inspire students by enabling them to learn directly from today's explorers. For the past 16 years, JASON has been working with federal partners as well as private sector partners in pursuing this goal of inspiring students to learn more about math and science. The studies, the independent studies that have been conducted have confirmed that the program does work. It has reached tens of millions of students over the years. It is a model that should be carefully examined. The JASON staff is now working with our other partners to develop a curriculum, a science curriculum for the 21st century using digital technology that will literally allow a teacher anywhere in the United States, in any state, in any grade, to call up on any given morning information that will allow that teacher to teach any subject in science tied to state standards. In conclusion, the experience of the National Geographic, its history of collaboration with other federal agencies and private sector partners demonstrates the importance of a national ocean exploration program. We commend you again for your efforts to create a robust exploration program and look forward to participating in one. I'm sorry I went over. I did once date a woman in New Jersey, so I hope that counts.
What was her name?
You're going to take the fifth.
I'm taking the fifth.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Garcia. Michael DeLuca, welcome. And I think you are from New Jersey.
I am from New Jersey.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Pallone. Thanks for the opportunity to testify on behalf of H.R. 3835. I grew up in New Jersey, and I did learn to scuba dive in New Jersey, as did Shirley Pomponi. I serve as the Senior Associate Director at the Institute of Marine and Coastal Sciences. Mr. Pallone promoted me to Director earlier. I appreciate that, and I'll chat with Fred Grassley about that when I do get back. I'm also the Director of the Mid-Atlantic Bight National Undersea Research Center, one of 6 regionally based undersea research centers. On behalf of my colleagues in undersea research at the 5 other regional centers and the National Institute for Undersea Science and Technology, we support passage of both Titles I and II of the bill with a few very modest recommendations. Both titles of the bill are important in their own right. However, with the broad expertise that's available here in ocean exploration, I'm going to focus my comments today on Title II of the bill, Noaa's Undersea Exploration Program Act. Before I get to my comments, I do want to indicate I did prepare a written statement for the record, and I appended also a letter of support on behalf of H.R. 3835 from the National Association of Marine Laboratories. Just asked that that be submitted into or accepted into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you. H.R. 3835 codifies 4 very key features of the National Undersea Research Program, or NERP as we commonly call it. These are the regional construct, research in support of ecosystem-based management, technology access and development, and education and outreach. And I'll touch briefly on each one of these. With respect to the regional construct, recommendations from a number of very august bodies over the years, including the National Research Council, have recommended that NERP be structured regionally with academic partners. The regional construct effectively leverages resources from the academic community and private industry to address NOAA's mission. Some of the benefits from this approach include links to regional pools of expertise, including scientists, managers, students, and educators as well. Increased participation in regional ocean management and education activities and organizations, as well as strengthened field operations through extramural capabilities. So the regional construct is extremely important for NERP and a key to its success. Secondly, with respect to research in support of ecosystem-based management, NERP has been critical to advancing our understanding of ecosystem function and response to human disturbance. For example, NERP-led research on deep ocean disposal led to a ban on ocean dumping. Research on the effects of trawling and other fishing gear on habitat was used to improve fishery management decisions and has been used in recent reports on gear impacts. These examples also illustrate that the regional structure enables transfer of science-based information directly to users, directly to the management community. Research in support of ecosystem-based management is a critical role for NERP to play. No other program at NOAA provides the undersea perspective directed at this emerging paradigm in ocean resource management. With respect to technology access and development, advances in undersea research and technology have enabled us to enter a new era in oceanography, that of the well-sampled ocean. New samplers, sensors, autonomous undersea vehicles, and ocean observatories now allow us to sample the ocean at time and space scales never before achieved. The fourth key feature of NERP is education and outreach. The U.S. Commission on Ocean Policy devoted an entire chapter to the importance of lifelong learning to address the critical need for raising public awareness of the plight and role of the oceans in the lives of all U.S. citizens. NERP welcomes this mandate as stated in the authorizing text of H.R. 3835. In fact, NERP has developed a variety of nationally acclaimed education programs that capture the public fascination with the oceans and Great Lakes by bringing the visual excitement of the undersea world into classrooms and living rooms as a means to enhance ocean science literacy, enrich science education, and promote environmental stewardship. One good example of this is the Cool Classroom, which is aimed at middle and K-12 students. And it enables teachers through some professional development and training to access real-time data streams that typically scientists just have access to, and to incorporate that into their lessons and standards that they have to teach to in the classroom. I'd like to just mention the merger very briefly since Rick Spinrad raised it. Obviously, NOAA has initiated a process to merge the Office of Ocean Exploration and NERP. This does present an opportunity for both programs to capitalize on respective strengths and to collaborate on mutual interests. For example, Shirley Pomponi was talking about the need for a rigorous, transparent, competitive peer review process. That already exists in the NERP system, and it's one example of how the two programs can collaborate and work together. During the merger process, however, care must be taken to preserve the four existing strengths of NERP, as I just noted. H.R. 3835 certainly recognizes these strengths, but as with other NOAA extramural programs like Sea Grant, like the National Estuarine Research Reserve System, the NERP Center should be actively engaged in the planning process and development of future directions. I have two relatively modest recommendations regarding the bill. First, recognition of undersea research in the short title will be truly appreciated by the undersea research community. We've been all referring to it as the National or NOAA's Undersea Exploration Act today. Second, the bill establishes similar authorities for both ocean exploration and undersea research, a formal mechanism to ensure coordination of effort among these programs is recommended. In closing, I'd like to note that for more than 2 decades, NERP has led NOAA's undersea science and technology development efforts. Long-term stability is especially critical to sustain the key infrastructure, technology, and field expertise required to conduct undersea research safely. H.R. 3835 provides much-needed stability to sustain this core expertise. The bill is straightforward, and it serves the national interest in ocean exploration and undersea research. My colleagues in undersea research, the 5 other national or regional undersea research centers, and the National Technology Institute strongly endorse passage of H.R. 3835 with the minor changes just noted. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the bill today. I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank all of you for your recommendations. The bill will leave this hearing enhanced and a lot better. I'll go first to Mr. Pallone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For giving me the opportunity to go first because I have another committee hearing, believe it or not. I wanted to tell you, this is great, this disc. I'm going to take this home and show it to the kids. I can't believe I'm going to ask you another New Jersey question. There's a guy from my hometown, I forget his first name. Is it Robert Duboulet? Does he still do a lot of the photography? David Duboulet. He still does a lot of your photography? Yeah, I knew his mother. He's from my hometown, yeah.
Well, David's one of the few underwater photographers that I know who becomes violently seasick on most of his trips. So.
Really?
Well, so that is real dedication. It's also, as Bob said, why he goes underwater.
That's good. Good to know. Anyway, I had 2 questions, I guess, for any of you, I suppose. Or maybe I'll start with with Robert Ballard on this one. You heard Dr. Spinrad stated enthusiastically that NOAA expects delivery within 2 years of a new converted Navy T-Agos vessel to serve as a platform dedicated to ocean exploration. From what you've heard or read about this vessel, can you comment on whether the vessel fits the bill for what's needed And were you or your institutions consulted during the design phase? And how does this vessel compare with other vessels in either the Noaa or university-based fleets? I mean, anybody can answer it, but I figured I'd start with Dr. Ballard.
What was used, as I showed on the slide, what was called the USNS Capable, is not a global class ship. It's called an ocean class ship, which will limit its range. It's 220 feet in length, and the conversion that's going through is being directed by a large number of people. And yes, the academic world has been involved, the commercial world has been involved in placing what can be placed aboard for $18 million aboard the ship. Clearly, I think it would have been wonderful had it been a global class ship. That just was not in the cards. I think when you, though, look at how much of the unexplored parts of our planet that can be reached by this new ship, it's huge. I would hope that it would demonstrate its worth in a very large part of the world, but that would lead subsequently in years to come to the ocean exploration program acquiring a global class ship, particularly to take it into the higher latitudes, which this ship will be more of the endless summer ship because it'll have to live within Capricorn and Cancer pretty much due to its station keeping capability. But it's a very, very capable ship, and I didn't mean to say that because it used to be called the Capable, but it's a very worthy ship for its mission. It has many, many, many years of exploration in areas that have never been explored before, but in the long run, the program will need a global class ship.
Does anybody else want to add to that, or if you would like to, go ahead.
Just briefly, I think that we should all understand that this is the flagship of exploration, but we shouldn't restrict our exploratory missions to only this ship, and that's not the intention. So although this is an ocean-class ship, there are other ships within the UNOL system, for example, that would also be used for exploration missions.
And which the office has been tapping. The Office of Ocean Exploration has been using global-class ships like the Conrad, like the Melville, like the Noaa, and will continue to do that. The budget, even as reduced as it is, that budget will permit it to not only support the new ship, and I'm glad you asked that question about the core support of the ship coming out of the operating budget of NOAA. It will still have funds to use global class ships. So.
Okay.
And I would just say I agree with Shirley and Bob, but when I was at NOAA, we acquired 2 Tiegos vessels. They are quite capable. I was trying not to use capable, but they are. There's no doubt about it. And certainly for the investment, I think that substantial value can be realized from the acquisition of this ship.
Okay, thanks. And then my second question, the administration's view is that the annual authorizations of appropriations in HR 3835 are much too high. And the administration urges that authorized levels be significantly reduced to match the fiscal year 2007 requested amounts. The question is, in any of you can take this, I guess I'd start with Ms. Pomponi. The opinion of any of you, though, can you tell me if the amounts requested by the administration in fiscal year 07 budget requests comes anywhere near the actual need for funding a sustained global ocean exploration program? And are the authorization levels in the bill more in line with what is needed? Would higher levels generate corresponding increases? Also, would higher levels generate corresponding increases in non-federal contributions?
I believe the amounts as indicated in the bill are much more appropriate than the lower level that exists right now. We've seen really a decrease in our capabilities to do ocean research and exploration. So the figures in the legislation are much more in line, are actually lower than what the Committee on Exploration of the Seas recommended.
Anybody else want to answer that?
Personally, the stability is first and foremost. When you ramp a program, when you fund it at one level and then cut it 45% the next year, planning global programs require years of planning. And with this new group, this new advisory group, is going to take and look at a 2-year, 3-year out planning schedule for the new ship. You can't ramp a program up and down. Having said that, personally, and this is a personal comment, I would rather see a steady growth than sudden growth. I would favor levels, you know, $20, $30 million levels, not $75 million levels. But I would certainly agree with all the panels that have been formed by the Academy, by the President Clinton's administration, and by the Ocean Commission. All come in at comparable levels of $70 to $100 million levels. I would think it a mistake to do that overnight. But I certainly would want to not to ramp up and down, and that's just disastrous.
Anybody else want to comment?
Well, I guess I would say I agree with Dr. Ballard, but understanding how the process works, I would suggest that it would be a serious mistake to consider lowering the authorized amounts, and in fact would hope that the Congress would deem the exploration of the oceans to be of sufficient importance to warrant consideration of actual increases. It should be treated as something that our well-being and very lives depend upon, and the funding level should reflect that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Pallone. Maybe we could, this subcommittee could be similar to the Transportation Committee, and that they get their money from gasoline taxes so they don't have to go through the appropriations process. If we could figure out how to fund our committee outside the appropriations process, we could get those incremental increases over the years, which would be more appropriate, I guess. Dr. Pomponi, and some of you also, and I'd like maybe a comment from everyone if you feel it's appropriate, you mentioned something about setting priorities in the bill, and I'm not sure what exactly you meant by that. If you wanted us to set priorities for structural or standards for exploration.
No, sir. What I was suggesting is that NOAA engage other ocean agencies, other agencies that are involved in ocean research, and academic and research institutions to help them set priorities for exploration.
So that's what should be in the bill?
Yes.
Actual language that gives direction to NOAA as to who or the myriad of other organizations that they consult before making priorities.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Ballard, is that, are they doing that? Is that your experience at NOAA?
Well, if you look at the President's Commission recommendation, it spells out 4 organizations, the first 2 being NOAA and the National Science Foundation as the lead. The second was the United States Navy, and I'd like to just comment for a moment. Historically, the development of deep submergence technology in this nation has been done by the Office of Naval Research. Developed the Alvin program, it developed the Jason program. The ocean exploration program in our world is called a blue water program. It means that the water's blue, and it means you're working in extreme depths. The average depth of the ocean is 4,000 meters, 12,000 feet. It gets down to 35,800 feet. Traditionally, the Navy has been the major supporter of the development of what we call deep submergence technology. NSF in recent years has taken a law on that mantle as well. We do not want to walk away from that. We do not want to discourage the Navy and the National Science Foundation from their continued long history of developing deep submergence technology. We just had a meeting, for example, at Newark in Newport. They're developing AUV systems. That laboratory has a $1 billion budget. A $1 billion, I mean, it's breathtaking for the Department of Defense. And there's so many applications of what they're doing in tube-launched UUVs that could be directly applicable to ocean exploration. So when you look at the Department of Defense's budget in the development of this technology, that is why we made a very specific statement in the Presidential Commission: do not forget the Navy. The other organization mentioned was the U.S. Geological Survey. The reason for that is that the U.S. Geological Survey has historically been involved in resource assessment, marine management service. I think it's very important to recognize that a critical part of the ocean exploration program is to discover resources that can be beneficial to our nation, particularly within our own EEZ, where half of our nation is underwater. And I can't believe that the resources of our nation are exclusively on the brown part and not on the blue part, particularly in the Western Pacific and its complexity. So I think the U.S. Geological Survey can play a very valuable role in shaping resource-oriented mission plans that could benefit us economically in the long run.
Dr. Humphris.
Thank you. In terms of setting priorities, I think the other important aspect of this is that not just involvement of federal agencies, but I think that in terms of setting priorities for the ocean exploration program and a strategic plan for the ocean exploration program, it's very important to involve a wide group of the academic science community. So I think that although the federal agencies are important, we need to also involve the scientific community in that exercise.
Do you feel then, as Dr. Pomponi, and I want to sort of get this straight in my mind, do any of you feel that we need to be more explicit, more specific about our language in this legislation to ensure what each of you have addressed, whether it's the academic perspective, whether it's not letting go of the defense connection to all this and all the dollars they may bring in? Is there a need for us to be somewhat more specific in who will be setting the priorities?
The key is not to bar existing centers of excellence from being involved. That's what's critical, is to make sure that the expertise of this nation has an opportunity to make a meaningful contribution to the ocean exploration program in all of its aspects, both in planning, where it goes and what it does, to the technology necessary to make that happen. And we just want to make sure that it's an open and has access to America's best minds.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So yes, to answer your question, yes, I believe the language in the legislation does need to be a little bit more specific.
So could we borrow a phrase from Dr. DeLuca? And as we're writing the language, to be more specific, to be more comprehensive to those centers of excellence, to be a part of the prioritization of ocean exploration, we would want, Dr. DeLuca mentioned the regional construct, technology and development, ecological systems, and education and outreach. Would that pretty much cover it?
I was speaking on behalf of Title II, the National Undersea Research Program element of the bill, and I believe the current text does enable those four key elements to continue. My concern is that as we go through this merger process at NOAA, that we might lose or jeopardize some of those elements. I'm encouraging the administration to ensure that there is a formal mechanism for the regional undersea research centers to engage in planning, strategic planning, and development of future directions and priorities for the National Undersea Research Program.
I'm going to ask somewhat of a favor of the witnesses. Quite simply, if you have some idea about what the language would look like, just sort of slip it to us through the mail, the email, up here on the dais. Give us some idea of the kind of language that you think would be appropriate for the bill.
Mr. Chairman, could I
Yes, sir.
just one comment and maybe a caveat? Obviously, responsible management requires that one set priorities. I would urge, however, that we keep in mind that flexibility also is important. I field 200 to 300 expeditions a year. Many of them are peer-reviewed, but every now and then you have to take a chance. I can tell you that if Einstein had submitted an application based on his theory of relativity to our peer review committee, they would not have funded it because it was taking a chance. You have to be willing at times to accept risk. You also have to be opportunistic. Right. So my only caution would be that we not tie ourselves so tightly to a system or a framework that we are unable to respond to true opportunity.
Thank you. I don't want to compare myself to Einstein, but if I applied for a job in my office right now, I wouldn't be hired probably, based on my skills and ability to do things. How many global class ships do we have in the United States for exploration, and how many are there in the world?
We're guessing 5?
5,
5 global class ships.
approximately.
Including NOAA's, not just the academic community.
And are they all seaworthy?
Yes, they're just underfunded. They're very capable, but we hate to see them up against the dock. That's what a ship is not supposed to do. And there is a plan within the UNOLS community for a replacement strategy, and in fact, we're hoping the Navy will also continue to play a role in that as well. But
what would be a global class ship in the Navy? A destroyer?
No. Funded,
No.
Noaa and the Melville are, you mean the length of the ship?
Right, but the size of the ship, what would that be?
Just under 300 feet. You get much bigger and you get out of sync with the ocean.
Really?
Yeah, 250 to 300 is the optimum length for the average wavelength of the ocean. It's the ship that sits best in the ocean for when you're on station and operating, as opposed to an aircraft carrier moving through.
So an aircraft carrier would be a little unwieldy.
You don't want to stop an aircraft carrier and try to load a launch and recover a Zodiac.
I see, okay.
Kill the people.
How many global class ships are there in the world? Do other countries have global class ships?
Yes, certainly France, Japan, and Germany, but small in number. I think their total is less than our cumulative. Anyone back there that got some stats on that? I think the United States global class research ships are the largest, certainly the largest group on the country, in the world. And I think just to point, that's a very important point when you look at China and India have none. And you've got to understand that America has the edge right now in the exploration of the oceans. And it's important to remember that we're not only exploring to have great scientific benefits to our nation, we're looking at the economic benefits to our nation. And there's a lot of countries that do not have the wherewithal to explore their EEZs. And we have the wherewithal to work with them. And that's why I think a very important component of the ocean exploration is not only the exploration of our uncharted regions of our EEZ, but working with other nations that cannot explore their own because it would be beneficial to our country in potential exploitation of resources further down the line. I think we need to be thinking that.
How many ships do we have the size of the Capable?
In the Navy, we've been
in ocean exploration.
Well, those are what are called ocean class ships. Asking the wrong people, but they're on the number of 6 or 7, 8. 15. That's class.
Sounds like an auction back there.
15. Well, these guys know in the back. 15.
15. Is there anything in the ocean exploration world similar to the International Space Station and how a number of countries have collaborated on that?
The most obvious one is the deep sea drilling project, which has been around since the 60s. It has gone through various reincarnations as the Ocean Drilling Program, and it's now the International Ocean Drilling Program. And that is a program for scientific ocean drilling that right now has a membership of about 22 countries. And that has been an extremely successful international collaboration over the last 40 years.
In fact, when it began, America was by far the lion's share sponsor.
Correct.
And now is not. It's a minority sponsor.
It's a 1/3 sponsor. The new International Ocean Drilling Program is funded 1/3 by the US, 1/3 by Japan, and then 1/3 by a consortium of countries from the European Union.
How many countries are in that?
There's 22 countries total.
But I think the point to be made is that we would hope that the ocean exploration program would follow that pathway and leverage itself to involve other nations so that, remember, we're all trying to understand the planet. And if we are smart about it, we should be following that kind of model so that other nations begin to invest in ocean exploration as well.
Mr. Chairman, there is one other program, the Census of Marine Life, which is an international program, and it involves 70 countries and I think about 1,000 scientists, and about 10 different 10 different projects, field projects.
Now, the drilling project, what are they drilling for?
They collect...
Not oil.
No, they're not drilling for oil. Basically, they collect a variety of different types of cores. They collect very long sediment cores that provide a record or an archive of climate change. Wow. And it's one of the longest records of climate change and ocean circulation that we have available to us. The other one's ice, but ice doesn't go back as far in time. So that is, they've been responsible for a lot of the discoveries about climate change, and many of the cores that they've drilled have been the samples that have produced the record back through time of both climate change due to natural causes plus other types of abrupt climate change. They also have drilled ocean crust, not as successfully because it's oil drilling technology. And we've actually also drilled one of these submarine hot spring, or a couple of these submarine hot spring sites. So they provide us with a way to get records of the ocean and how it's changed with time.
We've also done re-entry into existing holes, particularly looking at the biosphere beneath the Earth.
The biosphere beneath the Earth?
Within the Earth, excuse me. I mean, there are people that will say there's more living biomass inside Earth than on it. If you add up all the land, animals, and creatures, all the ocean and the air, they're less than what we think's inside Earth.
Really?
And that's why our prospecting for life in outer space is to not look for life on Mars, but look for life in Mars.
I'm interested in this, what is this project called again?
Deep sea drilling program.
Deep sea drilling program. So if I looked it up, how would I get information on that?
It's now
Google it.
The deep sea drilling program was what it was called initially. What you would really like to Google is the integrated ocean drilling program.
Integrated ocean drilling program. Wow.
And it's an excellent model, and one we're hoping the new advisory group that's been formed by Noaa will emulate by bringing in a much larger community to plan the programs of the project. And that's hopefully going to occur latter part of this year or early part of next year, where the community will be asked to come on a large scale and begin planning what this new ship of exploration is going to do.
Fantastic. I think we've pretty much gone through the details of the legislation. If you have any other recommendations, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us about that as we go through the process of refining Mr. Saxton's bill. This has been a fascinating topic. We should recess to dinner and talk about it further. But I want to thank each and every one of you for coming to testify before us today, and again for your dedication to these most important human endeavors, exploration, sense of profound curiosity. We'll try to inject some of that into this institution. Thank you all very much. This hearing's adjourned.